The ancient Sith and the Old Masters possessed immeasurable power in the dark side of the Force, so much so that they could conquer entire systems, not through political prowess, but because of their sheer natural dark side alignment. Ancient Sith lords such as Darth Nihilus, who could drain the life force of entire worlds, or Naga Sadow and Ludo Crash, two incredibly powerful Sith lords who were some of the most gifted single combatants that we've ever seen. Tula Cord, who was rumored to take down entire armies single-handedly. Darth Vitiate, who we know is capable of several complex rituals which left once thriving worlds dying and grasping for any life whatsoever. But why exactly is it? Why is it that it seems like the power disparity between the ancient Sith and the modern Sith is so massive? Why does it appear as if the ancient Sith lords possessed far more natural force power than the more modern Sith that we're more familiar with? Well, today, acolytes and students of the Force, we hope to answer that question and explain exactly why the ancient Sith lords appeared to be so much more powerful in the Force than the modern Sith. In the Darth Plagueis novelization, Plagueis comes at a moment where he is unable to fully control the midichlorian. He is deep within his experiments and is desiring to use the midichlorians to create life, which he believes will be the key to his ultimate galaxy-wise domination. However, upon his research, he encounters a major issue, as again, the midichlorians are actively fighting against his will. It is because of this that Darth Plagueis looks back at the old Sith masters, such as Naga Sadow and Exar Kun, and wonders exactly why his power pales in comparison to the might of the former masters. Naga Sadow, who was capable of creating hundreds of illusions at once and controlling them each individually, or Exar Kun, who managed to control the minds of the entire Galactic Senate and impose his will upon them. This led Darth Plagueis to theorize that perhaps the dark side of the Force itself had been more powerful during these more ancient eras, and that because of the presence of the Jedi and the light side of the Force thriving, the dark side itself dissipated. To explain the exact reasoning behind this though, we have to look to the era known as the New Sith Wars, where the Sith had returned in the form of a disillusioned Jedi Master. This Sith Lord named Darth Ruin united the Sith under one rule, and resolved to conquer the entirety of the Republic. However, the Sith of this era ran into a major problem, that being massive infighting, with Darth Ruin himself eventually being betrayed and murdered by his own troops. During this confrontation, the Sith very well should have won this war. However, it was because of this infighting that they ultimately fail yet again to the Jedi and the Republic. What's unique about this is where I believe that the Sith truly underwent a transformation that would cripple them for decades and centuries that would follow. The Sith before the New Sith era were united in a single purpose to destroy the Republic, and although infighting was still rampant, they absolutely admired and would bow down to the most powerful of their race. This is why Sith lords such as Naga Sadow and Exar Kun were able to rise to prominence, as the Darksiders under them followed them, and weaker Sith were not able to desperately grab for power like they were in the New Sith Wars. In fact, breaking off of Sith as Sith began to conquer and control smaller worlds was a massive problem for the Sith, as instead of being united to topple the Republic, they were content with controlling mere systems. And weaker Sith, with incomplete doctrine, were able to thrive during this era. This is where the group known as the Brotherhood of Darkness made their emergence among the Sith. The Brotherhood of Darkness offered a solution to the Sith infighting, and the reason why the Sith had become weakened despite the ancient days. The Brotherhood of Darkness proposed that they do completely away with the title of Darth, and taught the idea that all Sith were essentially equal, in hopes that this would stop the infighting among the Sith Order. However, this created another problem that would also cripple the Sith for the centuries that would follow, and would play into their diminished ability to touch the dark side. The first step being that the Sith grew weaker because they began to splinter off and were no longer united. But this being the second great problem. This new era in the Brotherhood of Darkness outright rejected the ways of the ancient Sith, as the ancient Sith grew to be so powerful because of constant conflict, and it was this conflict that as a result made them as dangerous as they were. Naga Sadow would not have become the powerful Sith warrior that he was without Ludo Crash, and Exar Kun would not have become as powerful as he was without rivals such as Ulic Qel-Droma. The Sith of the Brotherhood of Darkness, though, desired to do away with this conflict, not realizing that in conflict there was strength. It was Darth Bane who noted that the Sith had in fact severely diminished their own power in the Force over the last 2 centuries, and that it was because of this reduced power that they were now a shadow of the ancient masters. Master. In a sense, the Sith themselves turned their backs on the knowledge that was at their fingertips. In the following years, Darth Bane would discover a terrible secret about the ancient Sith, that because of the major infighting over the last 2 centuries, that the Sith had lost many ancient texts that involved some of the most deadly force powers created by the ancient Sith, due to them either being destroyed because of Sith Lords fearful that others would gain more power than them, or losing the abilities to time, keeping them for themselves and not sharing them with the wider order. This infuriated Darth Bane, as he believed correctly that this had crippled the Sith, and essentially ensured that the Sith would become nowhere near as powerful as they could have been with the complete texts on the Sith homeworld. Darth Bane realized that the archives had been purged time and time again, and had not been properly protected. When Darth Bane brought this information and recovered archives to the Master of Korriban, he was shooed away, stating that they were the scramblings of insane old masters, and were essentially useless to the more modern Sith attempting to be developed by the Brotherhood of Darkness, stating that these teachings were from an era that no longer mattered and was lost to time. This shows the major flaw with the Sith, and exactly why many of the Force abilities were not passed down to them. The fact that they believed that they were bone and that they should be left to die and to rot away, including all of their advancements. Essentially, they believed that the ancient Sith were inferior, which is completely incorrect, putting their own knowledge and teachings above that of the ancient Sith completely, and deeming none of the knowledge as influential or important to their future. Darth Bane would also grow to discover through his studies that much of the advancements and information of the ancient Sith were hidden away in their holocrons that were now spread throughout the entirety of the galaxy. But Darth Bane singled in on one holocron he deemed the most valuable, that being the holocron of Lord Revan. Darth Bane would even note that the information held within Darth Revan's holocron was more precious and advanced than anything that he had learned from the modern Sith on Korriban, with this only being a single recovered holocron that Darth Bane found on his journeys, with him stating that it possessed such terrors and powers that even he was unwilling to attempt any of them. This is why Bane resolved to create a brand new era of the Sith known as the Baneite era, or as many fans know, the Rule of Two era, where he attempted to obtain as much ancient Sith knowledge as possible and reintegrate it into the teachings of the Sith, although much of the damage had already been done, and a lot of the old teachings of the Masters were lost to time and dust, just as the Sith during the new Sith Wars era and the Brotherhood of Darkness desire, believing their own skills in the Force and their own knowledge of the dark side to be superior, and the ancient Sith teachings irrelevant. But anyway, my friends, what are your thoughts on this? Had you wondered exactly why the ancient Sith Lords were far more powerful than the more modern Sith, and contained Force abilities and rituals that we do not see used by any of the modern Sith? Is this a good enough reason, and did you enjoy the Darth Bane novels if you've read them? Please leave your thoughts on this down below. As always, thank you so much for watching the channel, and may the Force be with you.